Capcom is killing it with the Resident Evil franchise. Resident Evil 4 Remake, millions of sales. Resident Evil 8 Village DLC, the Rose Winters DLC. Fire, absolute fire, bringing some of the more horror elements from Resident Evil 7 into the DLC. And now that Resident Evil 4 Remake is out, all the eyes are on the next mainline game, Resident Evil 9. So we all know that Resident Evil 9 will be the final game in the trilogy that started from Resident Evil 7. It is called The Winters Story. So Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8 focused on Ethan Winters. Resident Evil 8 DLC gave us Rose Winters, and even though those characters might not be playable or the main protagonist, Ethan can't be, of course, their story will continue and end in Resident Evil 9. We have some information regarding that. According to some insiders, Resident Evil 9 will mainly focus on Chris Redfield, and it makes sense too, you know. The reason I liked 7's direction and 8 too is how personal the story became. And yes, there's an overarching story with Megamycete and all the villains involved in Resident Evil 7 and 8. It was mostly from a perspective of a down-to-earth personal story from Ethan's perspective, right? And in the DLC, yes, again, an overarching story gave more light to the lore and whatnot, but it was, again, personal. It was personal to Rose because of Ethan Winters, her father, and as a player, you know, we've played Resident Evil 8 and 7 as Ethan, so it was personal to us as players. So, for me personally, and if we are continuing the Ethan's storyline, it makes sense for it to be revolved around Chris Redfield. I would not mind a time jump and have his story get a satisfying conclusion as the other characters have, and, you know, finally put this storyline to bed. It will become the best trilogy in Resident Evil franchise. We can also, through Chris Redfield, bring some of the elements of the lore from the first Resident Evil. And there's other rumors going around that Jill Valentine might have some sort of cameo or a little bit role in Resident Evil 9. Well, to be honest, that was a long time ago, and I mean a very long time ago. It had more to do with another game's remake, so we don't know if it is about that game or Resident Evil 9, but even if it is, I think it makes sense. It's the final game in the trilogy. I think cameos left, right, and center would absolutely work. Now, Dusk Golem, of course, again, a prominent insider has revealed that Capcom is currently planning Resident Evil 9 to drop in 2025, with an announcement next year in 2024. As we all are aware that production on Resident Evil 9 started a long time ago, so it makes all the sense in the world. The game is not going to be announced at all this year in any event. It is slated to announce mid next year with a release of mid-2025. So we're just gonna have to wait and see on that aspect. It makes sense. So one would wonder, okay, are we gonna get anything next year in terms of an actual game, in terms of an actual remake? Possible. You know, there's Resident Evil 5 remake theories and Resident Evil 6 remake theories, but even those is going to be a while if they were to happen. That would leave us with games like Resident Evil Veronica or Resident Evil Outreach. We don't know why Capcom is still holding off on those, but with Resident Evil 4 out of the way, I think the path is kind of sort of clear for that. At the moment, they've been doing one remake, one mainline game, one remake, one mainline game. So it kind of makes sense for it to be Resident Evil 9 first and then a Resident Evil 5 or 6 or whatever remake. We don't know. Let me know your thoughts and theories on this.